John, we've talked a little bit over the years about the tax traps that relate to these various equity incentive compensation programs. Do you want to touch on, without doing the whole 2-hour presentation?
Yeah, the first one, and this relates a little bit to what John had to say, in a lot of the deals we see, the management team doesn't necessarily have to go and borrow on their home to put their money in. In a lot of cases, they already own equity or have change of control payments due from the existing business, and you discover that as part of the due diligence, and then you may require as part of the deal that they invest a portion of that or a significant portion of that in your company, and that's how they get their skin in the game. So that's one thing that could be done. And if you're doing that, you may find that there's a way that you can structure the deal so that if they have equity, they can roll it into the new deal on some sort of tax advantage basis. So that's one sort of tax trap that you may avoid by letting them roll their equity as opposed to selling it and then reinvesting the proceeds. Another issue is anytime anybody's getting any stock, the question is, are they getting it at fair market value if they're buying it? And if there's any possibility that they're buying it at a price lower than, Mr. Investor here, then there's a question of cheap stock, and to the extent they're getting cheap stock, there's potentially taxable income on that. In Tim's deals, if a management person receives stock and it's restricted and then it vests over a period of time, any property received in connection with the performance of services is taxable when those restrictions lapse. So each year, as 1/4 of the vesting restrictions goes away, that person could have taxable income on the value of those shares at that point in time. Now, there's a way to solve it with a special election, but that's, an issue. Another issue that sometimes comes up is options to buy into the company. You don't necessarily get stock, you don't invest right away, but you get an option. Options can be structured in a number of different ways, and sometimes when you exercise those options, if not properly structured, you could have taxable income upon exercise of the options, and that's another example where people are not very happy because they don't have any cash to pay the tax, and all of a sudden they have a big tax bill done. If you have some sort of an EVA plan can pay out on an annual basis, or you can have a deferred compensation component to it. Anytime you have deferred compensation for an executive, whether it's an EVA or a stock appreciation rights plan or a deferred bonus plan, anytime there's deferred money, there's some new IRS rules that require that those be structured in a very specific way, and if they're not, there's some very adverse tax consequences to the deferred compensation. So there's a lot of issues there, and the other one I can think of off the top of my head is a lot of times you'll put into place something upon exit that the individual will get some sort of additional compensation, a golden parachute payment, for example. And there are some specific rules you have to comply with there, or there can be excise tax or penalty on the receipt of that golden parachute payment.